Hello, I'm Andrew Simpson and welcome to my journey. For this body of work I really wanted to do something that was strange or would help keep you. For this body of work I really wanted to do something that was strange and would keep people interested. I generally like to create things like that anyway, so no matter what I was doing, my work would always carry something that was interesting to me. My work started with a focus on surrealism, but not the classic painted surrealism. I was interested in a more of a true to life kind of surrealism. I'll call it documentary surrealism for now. I was interested, my focus was on quirky photo-based oddity. I chose artists that had a flair and a unique touch to them at first. Later on in the project I began to separate them up into different categories so I could explore more. These artists really interested me because they reminded me of aspects of my previous work I'd done. They also developed their own unique take on surrealism. Murat Sayeginer used a vast variety of colour and emotion. Robert and Shanna Park Harrison portrayed a strange, naturalistic reality, and among others, Kevin Wilson. He did a dark, sort of dreamlike aspect. These are the kind of things that interest me, so it seemed like a great chance to explore and develop some of my work. Inspired by their brand of quirky surrealism, I set off on my journey. Right. Development. At this stage, I had a set of images floating around in my head. Images that I wanted to create, and at this stage I had a set of images floating around in my head that I wanted to create, and I decided to use them to explore how these artists had used surrealism in its broadest sense. Arnulf Rainer's images, in brackets, these images are influenced by Arnulf Rainer. I decided not to follow them up because they seemed a bit tame and not really trying to reach out to the audience. I mimicked what he did and then tried to push it further by physically destroying the images instead of just destroying it with paint. This seemed a better way to go than just sticking with paint. But as I say, his work wasn't really inspiring enough to me. It didn't really capture my imagination, so I discontinued this exploration. These photos were heavily inspired by Murat Sayeginer. As you can see, they carry the same intense style that he uses, and they just don't make sense. This piece, as you can see here, it was influenced by these two images. As you can see, the tone of the photograph is quite dark, whereas this one was influenced by these two images. The piece is not quite as bright, but it still carries the same surreal essence. I also tried to recreate Robert and Shanna Park Harrison's style with these images here. I think these were the most successful of all the experimentations I did, as I think I managed to capture their brand of bizarre antique surrealism. Later on, after creating these dreamlike images inspired by Kevin Wilson, I branched out into an exploration of surrealism using film and video. I looked at Eraserhead by David Lynch, which I found to be really interestingly and cleverly done. He had created convincing surrealism based on everyday activities and normal situations. It was clever, and it got into your mind. I decided I wanted to explore this medium further. I found a video artist called Larry Carlson, who had created some pretty trippy videos that enhanced the... I found a video artist called Larry Carlson who had created some pretty trippy videos that entranced the viewer's mind. I decided to combine Larry Carlson and David Lynch with a hint of another video artist I had discovered, simply known as To The Ark, part of the internet horror series Marble Hornets. I wanted to make a surreal video that combined their competing styles. I did some test pieces and finally decided that I would create all my own overlays to mimic Larry Carlson's bleeding cartoon effect, and then used the dark aspects from David Lynch and To The Ark to generate mood with more variety. However, this experiment and development did lead me to find the true meaning behind my project. Further research led me to a man named Marcus Coates, an artist who connected with nature in a strange way. His performance art had captured my imagination. I'd been through painting, photography, video art, and now this. This is what it had all led up to. Suddenly everything I had been doing was clear. Looking back, I discovered that my interest lay in transformations. I discovered that my interest lay in transformations within the viewer. Images that would evoke a new psychological state or change/alter one. Marcus Coates was probably the most definitive influence in my work. Without him, I wouldn't have arrived at such a mature, coherent outcome. The first time I saw his video on YouTube, it just got me thinking. I was truly amazed that he was actually doing this. It was inspiring. Coates was very in touch with nature and often went birdwatching. I felt like he was really involved in his work more than other artists ever were. This probably is what I admired about him, as I like to try involving as much of myself in my work as I can. But that could just be vanity. I also really like the concept of spirituality in art. I think that art can produce some really interesting pieces using these different worlds as inspiration. Another thing that interests me are animals, as they're just fascinating. They aren't human, they should be alien to us, just as we are to them. But we have come to accept them and learn about them. We live alongside them now. But what Marcus Coates is trying to do just made me wonder about my art and how far I could push it. He made me want to create something more ambitious. Marcus Coates led me towards some interesting artists, one of which also greatly inspired me. His name was Joseph Beuys. His work, much like Marcus Coates, dealt with nature and animals. I Like America and America Likes Me involved him being wrapped up with felt and locked in a room with a wild coyote for 3 days. Another piece was How to Explain Pictures to a Dead Hare, in which he explained pictures to a dead hare while his head was covered in honey and gold leaf. Viewers could only view this through the gallery windows as you locked the doors from the inside. Joseph Beuys shared Marcus Coates' performance style. However, Beuys had a much more serious emotive feel to it than Coates' slightly comedic performance. However, I decided to take the best of both and perform my own shamanic performance. This is my own performance piece, much similar to Marcus Coates' Plover's Wing. As you can see, I tried to change my own psychological state as I travelled into the lower world. As you can hear, the sounds I've made once slowed down and very similar. Now, as you can hear, the sounds I've made once slowed down sound very similar to that of a lion. This piece has a very spiritual feel surrounding it. The light pouring in from the windows and the strong colour painted onto my body gives it an echoing intensity. What you see now is the final product of my journey. Out of everything, this is what I am most proud of. This represents my greatest transformation. I wanted the actors in this piece to transform and almost become their animal. I gave them no instructions other than stand there. What you see them doing is purely because they have changed their psychological state and chosen to act as if they were that animal. This is what I was working towards. This is what I have created. And I feel I have achieved the goal I set out to achieve.